Right. Good afternoon, parents. Welcome to today's session. Today is quite a packed session, so our apologies that we have so many things to inform you at our very first meeting, but we thought it's important for us to keep you updated on quite a few things as part of the starting of the school. So I will be doing the first segment, given half an hour. So hopefully I can share with everyone some of the big brushstroke of some of the things that Admiralty Primary School will be doing for this year. And then we will pass you on to the year heads who will brief you more details about some of the more level specific programs. And then after that, you will get a chance to hear from your child's class teachers on some of their arrangements for your children in their own specific classes. Okay, so for my segment, I'm going to be going through the following. I'll be sharing with everyone the PSLE results from last year. And after that, I would be talking about some of the trends that we are observing about what is going to be coming up for us, and therefore what's the implication for our children. And our response to these trends will be about this whole notion of learning with technology that we will be sharing with you. And beyond that, we will also want to highlight some of the other key programs that we are going to have for this particular year. Okay. Now, the results for PSLE in 2020 is a very strong one. And of course, we all know about MOE's current policies about how we do not want to encourage unhealthy competitions amongst schools and also amongst our children. So we really very much do not want to share too much about the scores. And actually, if you ask me, it is really not about the scores, definitely not about the high scores that matters, because these are all scoring by individual students. I think what is more important is about the overall performance as a school. And I would like to share some of the following key points about our school's achievement. So first thing first, we want to say that we have one of the highest number of higher mother tongue students for last year. So those of us who have had children over the last few years in P5 and P6, you would have noticed about this shift in our school policy, whereby we, I think since about 2 years ago, we have been encouraging our children whose results in P4 in terms of mother tongue score reach a certain minimum score, will all be encouraged, strongly encouraged to take up higher mother tongue. So we've been pushing the number of students taking higher mother tongue. Why is that so? Because we want to make sure that children at this stage, when they are still young, to build a strong foundation in their mother tongue languages. Okay, it is not about being able to score well for higher mother tongue or even entry into SEP schools, which is what a lot of people are saying about the reasons behind them taking higher mother tongue. But for us, we look at it from a more general point of view. Is about our students' foundation in their mother tongue language. So we are saying that whether the child is going to use the higher mother tongue score to apply for secondary school, that's immaterial. But for students with good standard in their mother tongue, we will still want to encourage them to take up higher mother tongue so that they build a very strong foundation in their mother tongue languages. And with that strong foundation, no matter which school they go to, they would then be able to spend more time on other subjects rather than having to take up time to continue learning their mother tongue. Because if they learn their higher mother tongue here, it will mean that they will have already certain competencies that will tie them over to the secondary school. So when they reach secondary schools, they will find it easier to handle the mother tongue languages, and that they will then be able to spend more time on the other subjects. So that's our purpose. And we just want to also say and share that out of the 85 students who have taken higher mother tongue, most of them, a high number. In fact, we have very few number of students who did not pass. And most of them would have at least passed higher mother tongue. Next, key points that we want to highlight is that out of all the students who have taken PSLE last year, all the students would have taken at least one standard subjects. And this is again we want to kind of debunk this fear in many parents in Singapore who always have this fear of streaming. They always talk about streaming as a mechanism whereby their children will be disadvantaged because they will not be allowed to take standard subjects. We just want to share that in Admiralty, this is not our approach at all. Okay, we actually strongly encourage most, if not all of our students, wherever possible, to keep taking standard subjects. Okay, and at primary 5, we continue to do so all the way until primary 6. We will only start to encourage them to consider dropping down to foundation level if they totally cannot access the standard subjects. And what do I mean by that? That will happen if the child can only score single digits out of 100 marks, okay, in their standard subjects assessments. Then those are the kind of indications that we will take to understand that the child probably is very far away in terms of their ability to take up the standard subjects. So in this kind of situation, these will be the only situation whereby we will encourage the children to drop back to foundation subjects. And usually the child and the parents will find a relief to be going down to foundation because they will find that there are more questions that they are able to assess. Okay, so really this is again to debunk that myth about how students are being stopped from taking standard subjects because of a certain standard that we want to upkeep. That is totally not true at all. All right, next, we also want to share that we also have the highest number of students who are admitted through DSA. And this thing about DSA consideration will be something that you will see that from this year onward, we are going to start to coach our students more deliberately in terms of considering that beyond their PSLE results, would it be possible for them to consider or find ways to enter the secondary school of their choice through other methods such as DSA, other than PSLE results? So this is something that we are going to also come in to coach our children in a big way. So all in all, the performance in the PSLE results T-score have sustained the improvement that we have been having over the last few years. Okay, so in terms of the percentage of high scorers, those above 250, we have sustained the percentage of our high scorers. We have maintained 70% and above of our students eligible for express course. We have fewer than 10% of them being channeled to NT course. So these are our achievement in terms of the batches of students, and last year was of no exception. So all in all, our students in 2020 did very well for their PSLE results. And one thing that I forgot to mention is that if you do have questions as I'm going through my presentations, my vice principals and some of my key personnel are also here at the meeting, even though you can't see them. You can type in your questions in the chat form, and they will try to address your questions in that form. All right. Now, next, I just want to go on to show some of the trends that we are identifying. So if you look at this two pieces of newspaper articles that are being published on Straits Times on 18th and 19th of January, just very recently, I will be sharing this series of slides later on our school website, and we will also share a copy, a PDF or PNG copy of the two Straits Times article there as well, so that you can read them if you have not already read them in the newspapers. The impact of post-pandemic global trends in Singapore is cautioning that the traditional way of how Singapore make ourselves relevant to the rest of the world is that we treat ourselves as a hub, as a node. But increasingly, I think this article is cautioning that going forward, that kind of model might not be the best way for us going forward. That going forward, instead of just relying ourselves and our position as a hub to channel the flow of goods and services, we have to look at the kind of values that we can create our own. So that it's not so much about being able to channel the values that are created by other people from one part of the world to another, but we ourselves, to make ourselves relevant, we must create the values ourselves. So I think that's one of the very key points that we should be considering, and what is the implication for our children as they grow up. The other articles on the right-hand side actually talks about something that I think under Minister Ong Ye Kung's time has already been talking about how tertiary education is not the only way to access to good jobs. And that going forward, we need to look at education as a form of lifelong learning, and that beyond getting a degree, you have so many other ways of securing good jobs, okay? And with that, I just want to share about this book by Thomas Friedman about Thank You for Being Late. I think many of you might have already read the book. This book was published in 2016, so now in 2021, it's already 5 years later, and some of the items that are mentioned in this book might already be starting to get outdated. But nevertheless, I think many of what this book is mentioning is still relevant. And part of what Minister Lawrence Wong was mentioning about how the value of a degree is actually decreasing, and how even with the degree of universities, they might not, the knowledge gathered in the university might not be good enough to sustain the employment of our children throughout their whole adulthood. Okay, so therefore this book actually mentioned in more detail and explained some of the upcoming trends in the world in terms of what working is like, what education is like. And all these things has to do with that hyper connectivity, that the technology is accelerating the changes in terms of how our society works. So it's a very interesting book, and I think for educator, when we read this, it really dawned on us in terms of how education need to change to prepare our children for this kind of world. Some of the key points that personally I picked up from reading this book is about how currently many of the jobs is what the book considered as high pay but average effort. Okay, that after you reach a certain level, you work hard for your initial years, but you will reach a steady state whereby your pay will continue to become better and better, but the effort that you need to put in is not as much anymore, that you reach a stable stage, a safe stage, whereby you can just cruise along until you retire. So say, for example, in university, perhaps the kind of tenure that a professor is able to get once they have proven themselves in terms of their capabilities. So those are the kind of job structure well, I want to say in the past, but maybe it's still in the current state. But this kind of arrangement of employment will slowly be replaced by a kind of job situation whereby we have to constantly prove our worth and constantly learn and relearn and continue to be at the forefront. And therefore, this whole thing about tenureship probably will go. And therefore, high pay will come with high effort all the time, okay? And we need to be always plugged in and be connected. Because right now, handphones and the 5G network that is coming up is allowing us to, so much capability to connect with the rest of the world. And because of that connection, it enables us to do a lot of things. And if we don't take advantage of that, then we are going to lose out. Okay, so that is again something that is very important, because that affordability and that whole coverage is increasing at phenomenal speed. And that if we don't catch on as quickly as we can and continue to find ways and means to maintain our connection in this network, we will find ourselves losing out. Always learning, always updating, and going forward, knowledge is no longer the king, knowledge is everywhere. You just Google, you will know things. People learn through finding things in Google. People learn through some of the free online courses that are offered by universities. So the important thing is not about knowledge anymore, because it's so accessible. So what will make a difference is about what you can do with the knowledge. So that self-motivation to want to go and learn, because information is out there. So those who have the motivation and go and learn it will then be learned. Those who are just going to unplug themselves, they will find that they are being left behind. And the creativity that one is going to have in terms of how they make use of this information to create even more values. In this hyper-connected world, how do they relate to one another? How do they gather and find opportunities to connect and offer values to other people? These are all becoming very important skills for our young generations that come through our hands. So with that, and then with COVID-19 that is currently still looming in the horizons, and we are now seeing a uptick in terms of the clusters in our community, and we all can see from today's newspaper that our ministers are very concerned about this, and that there might be further curbs in terms of our Chinese New Year gatherings. So the danger is still there. So what we want to do is two things. One thing is that we have to make sure that we are ready for any kind of pandemic related disruptions to our education, just like the circuit breaker last year. So last year, I think it caught us off guard. But now with months of experience down the road, we want to make sure that should there be another disruption, we are better prepared for this, okay? And on top of that, it's not just about the pandemic readiness that we want to equip ourselves and our children with, but in terms of that longer term integration of technology into teaching and learning. We talk so much about what the future world is like, but what are we doing in terms of our education? If we do not change, if we still stick to the old textbook mode, then our children would again not be plugged in and not be capitalizing or learning how to use technology or how to take advantage of what technology can offer to help them enhance their learning. And that's something that we need to start very quickly, okay? So learning with technology is our response to prepare our children for the new future. And then this future requires our students to be very securely plugged into this network and take advantage of it. Now, we just also want to mention that many of you, if you have read the newspaper, you will know that MOE's rollout for their, I think they still call it home-based learning tryout, is limited to secondary school and above. So primary school officially from MOE, there is no plan in terms of that home-based learning rollout. So for us, our learning with technology is something that is independent of MOE's rollout of their HBL plan. So we just want to make sure that there is no confusion, because some of us, as you read the newspaper, might find that, why is Admiralty Primary doing certain things and which is quite different from what MOE? So we just want to be very clear that what we are doing here is something that is school initiated and is not related to the MOE current rollout. But we can see that eventually, whatever the MOE is rolling out, eventually our primary school will also be connected to it. So this is just our effort to kind of prepare ourselves as well to make sure that we don't lose that momentum and that when MOE finally says that, okay, they are ready for primary school to join in, we are at a much more mature positions to join into this MOE initiative of whole nationwide home-based learning scenario that they are planning out for us. Okay, so our learning with technology, so two things. One thing is that we are looking at our pandemic preparedness. Second thing is about longer term integration. And this integration is not just about a home-based learning day, but even in their day-to-day interaction with teachers, we also want to build in this technology element. Okay, it's not just about using of laptop or tablets in the classroom, but it is about outside of classroom. How do we how do we get our students to be learning through using the technologies as well, all right? Now, we do have learning with technology days that are being planned. So as I've said, learning with technology is not just about using the technology within the classroom, but it's also about once the child go outside the classroom, how does that technology continue to help them to continue facilitating their learning? So we have some learning with technology days planned, and you will see that we are actually not taking up any curriculum time. We are capitalizing on some of the time that our children are already required not to come to school. Okay, so March holiday is our first bout, and we are not asking the children to be learning throughout the whole March holiday. It's just one day on that day that we plan certain things that they should do, and they can spread out the task across the whole of the March holiday to do if they want to. So again, this is about giving our children that whole self-motivation and self-organization to organize their own schedule themselves on how do they learn with technology. The other dates are as indicated in this slides here. The dates will be shared with you in a more formal way by the teachers later on. So there's no need to copy it, but you will notice that these are all the natural time whereby our children are not required to come to school. So we are not sacrificing any of our curriculum time for that. So going back to this whole thing about pandemic disruption, you will notice that right from the start of the year, when MOE announced that other than primary one, the rest of the level will come to school one day later, we actually activated that first day of school instead of what some parents in the newspaper mentioned that, oh, one more day of holiday for my child. We actually initiated that we want to take this day as one that to test out our pandemic readiness in terms of our communication. So of course, starting this without any pre-communication with the parents, we didn't expect it to be a kind of 100% on board rate. So we noticed that, okay, some parents are able to come on board very quickly, but others might have some lagging behind. And you also notice that since the term started, we have sent out more and more messages through the parent gateway, and also the teachers have also sent out other messages through their agreed platform with you. So I think throughout the last few weeks, you will notice that increasingly, the teachers have come in contact with you, and then since our very first day of interaction, have kind of worked out a system and a way of communicating with you. So that's something that we wanted to establish with you, and we want to thank you for working with us and understanding the importance of establishing this communication channel and that readiness so that if the disruption comes very suddenly, and just to share that we already noticed that one of the cases in the community spread, actually one of them was actually a student of a primary school in the west side. So we are saying that, okay, you never know whether when this will happen to our school community, when one of our students might be involved in this, or even more that are involved in this. Some of the recent cases actually are hovering around the Woodlands, Senoko area. So I think it is coming quite near. So we are also getting a little bit concerned. So we want to make sure that we are prepared for that. And then Parent Gateway will be our main channel of pushing out the information to you. And just to share with everyone that this is also the way that MOE would also push out their MOE messages to all parents, because sometimes MOE will push out messages to parents directly, and that will be through Parent Gateway. So we will want to encourage that when you install the Parent Gateway, first of all, make sure that the Parent Gateway is updated to the latest version. Secondly, also make sure that you enable the push notification, because we also understand that we have so many channels to monitor and that not every one of us will keep logging on to Parent Gateway to check the latest notices. So it is much better if you can set it on, because I think the default when you install the Parent Gateway software is that the auto push notification is not being set on. Or even, or some of you maybe as you install, they might ask you, oh, do you want the software to automatically prompt you for notification? You might have instinctively push it to not send you notification. But in this case here for Parent Gateway, it's important that you set it on, that you allow the Parent Gateway to push notification to you. So I think that's something that's very important for us to share with you. Your form teacher and your subject teachers will also have communicated to you about how their preference in terms of whether they are using WhatsApp or whether they are using Class Dojo or even other platform to communicate with you. So we have also told our teachers to try to kind of standardize to only a few platforms rather than all of them all using platforms, so that you don't have so many platforms to juggle around. But we also seek your understanding to kind of work out a system, allow this system to kind of work, give your feedback to the teachers about some of the angle that you have, and then we will kind of like figure out what is the right balance in terms of the choice of platform and also the ease of communication. All right. So key initiative in terms of the learning with technology, just also want to assure everybody that we are not just jumping multiple steps at a time. This is not a flavor of the day. This is a very long-term strategies that we want to do, and we are taking step by step from this year onwards. So we do ask for your patience. Not everything will be like very, very smooth running. There will be some teething issues, but we will want to continue to work very closely with you to understand what are the issues or problems that you are facing from an angle, and then so that we can adjust our plan along the way. So from your angle, because access to technology is one key thing, and we know that different family, you have your own arrangement and your own systems and your own affordabilities. So we just ask that you monitor the whole situation depending on your children, the classes and their teachers, how they are using technology, and then along the way, slowly think through what are the ways to provide that access to your children, and whether it's one-to-one device or one device shared by a few of the siblings. These are things that have to work through, and in terms of whether the family can afford, there are financial assistance scheme that can cater to helping families to acquire technologies. So these are options that you can explore with us. Bring to your teachers' attention. And if your teachers are not able to solve it, they will come to us to share with us the kind of situation that you are in, and we can then go and explore what are the ways that we can do to help you in terms of this acquisition of technologies. Now, besides the technology part, going forward, I have mentioned about the DSA. So in terms, DSA is actually related to educational career guidance. So the choice of secondary school is actually part of that. And going forward, we are going to be also beefing up on that. So students who are in P5 and P6, parents, you will start seeing that we will be rolling out programs step by step to be asking your children to think through about their secondary school choice, what they want to do in the future, and how does that related to their secondary school choice. And if these are their choice of secondary schools, then what are the different options that they can exercise to gain entry into these secondary schools. So these are things that we want to be more deliberate to guide our students and to talk to our students about these choices. We are having Mosaic. Mosaic was something that we are supposed to have in 2020, but because of our COVID-19 situation, we were not able to have it. So this year, we are definitely going to have one. It might be an online version because looking at the pandemic situation, face-to-face interaction probably will still not be allowed, but we will still want to have the Mosaic whereby students in the performing arts have an opportunity to showcase what they have learned. So that's something that's going to be coming up, and students who are involved, parents, you will see that your children are going to be involved in these preparations. And also along the year, next year is our 25th anniversary. So this is also the year that we will also be starting our preparation towards that anniversary. And we just want to say that when it comes to anniversaries, it is not just about a celebration. It is also about the school taking stock of our development over the last 5 years and over the last 25 years, and then to kind of take stock of what we have achieved, how we have moved, and then how we want to move in the future. So we want it to be a meaningful journey, and that we will be sharing with you more details as we move along this preparation. Okay, cyber wellness information, we know that many parents are concerned about that, and especially when the school is going on a very big way in terms of the use of technology. Definitely, how our children's safety in this cyber world is a key concern, and we will be pushing out more information both to the students and also to share with you what we have discussed with our children, so that we can work closely with you in terms of being able to coach our children in terms of what are the do's and don'ts when they are engaged in technologies. Um, we will have more touch points with you. I think P5 and P6 parents, one thing that we definitely will be engaging you with will be early in February, whereby we'll be sharing with you more about the new AL point system, whereby the MOE is going to start releasing how some of the AL tentative cutoff score is going to look like for the secondary schools from this year onwards. So that will be coming up, and we will let you know the details of that sessions later on. Okay, so there'll be more bite-sized outreach from us coming to you either in the form of Zoom meeting or in the form of parent gateway messages to you. So we hope that these are our ways of trying to make sure that we share with you pertinent information about our children's education. And we hope that using that, we are able to work more closely with you. Last thing, our PSG is always out to welcome more members joining us. And some of you might already know that there are studies that have shown that parents who are involved, very involved with school activities, they generally have a positive impact on our children's well-being in terms of their sense of pride and in terms of their relationship building. So really, we welcome, and we would reach out to some of you as well to invite you to join us. So very much wanting to welcome you to this PSG family. Okay, so with that, I finish my portion. I'll pass the time back to the facilitator. Now, tentatively, let me just take a look. There are some key questions. There is some requests to share the percentage of students who score above 250 last year. Now, I think offhand, let me see, Mr. Sim, do we have the figure? Offhand, I cannot remember the numbers, but I think the number has been quite encouraging. Okay, so if we get a sense of the children who received the result, I think generally many of them felt that they have achieved even beyond their expectations. So most of our students were happy with what they have achieved in terms of that. So 250 scores, again, we don't kind of monitor that, but as we kind of, as a rough gauge in terms of that, I think we have been sustaining in terms of number. Okay, definitely one of the key things that we monitor is our average PSLE scores. So if your average of 250 is, if your average is sustained there, then definitely your average for your 250s would also be sustained there. So based on my rough memory is that the percentage of 250 is actually sustained. Yeah, more or less. So share about 2020, the DSA 21 schools. Which are the schools? It can be a variety of schools. We just want to say that actually right now, all secondary schools are able to offer DSA. So it's not so much about using DSA to enter prestigious schools. It is about all schools offering DSA, and to each of our children, whether they are at the high end in terms of their performance, the very high performing students, or whether they are middle range, or whether they are towards the lower range. All child would have a stretch school that is maybe slightly beyond their reach. And these stretch schools, they can think of entering these schools either through working hard for their PSLE, so that they will get a better score than what they are already scoring right now, or they can think about entering these schools through DSA. So the DSA is not just about a particular group of school, but it's about every school being able to offer that. So again, technically, what is important to us for Admiralty Primary is that more and more students, they are seeing that other than PSLE, other than academic score, they are able to gain entry into their choice schools through other methods. And I think that's something that we want to establish. Which school is it? Actually, it doesn't matter to us. As long as it's a school that our children feel that they want to get in and they want to work hard to get into their school. Okay. What is the expected hour on iPad after school? Okay, so in terms of technology use after school, I think we stick to this notion of 4 hours. So during last year, the circuit breaker period, you will notice that the way we organize our home-based learning was very tailored, whereby we say 4 hours of work at home in terms of academic work, 2 hours using computers, and 2 hours using other ways. And that will be something that we will want to maintain for now. And in addition to that, we also say that another additional 4 hours will be something that is totally self-motivated. So that additional 4 hours will be something that we leave it to the student. It's something whereby we say, okay, if we say that we let our students stay at home and do their learning, if we say that we only ask them to learn 4 hours, I'm not so sure whether some of you might feel that it's a little bit too little. So we say that, okay, from school angle, in terms of structured work, technology, use of technology, 2 hours. Beyond technology, structured work, we give them another 2 hours. Okay, so 4 hours of work that will be scheduled by the school. After that, we will say that we encourage students to do another 4 hours of work, but it will be totally on their own in terms of what is it that they want to. It can be an extension from the 4 hours of structured work that we have given. It can be other things. Okay, and we will communicate more of that to you. But if you ask about the kind of expected hours in terms of structured work, okay, you'll be kept to 4 hours, and then 2 hours with technology, 2 hours without the technology. All right, let me look at another list of questions. Okay, so parents supports schools' initiative for the learning with technology to gain knowledge. Can we consider allowing students to bring mobile phone or devices to school and keep in locker when not in use? I think generally we feel that the technologies should be with them all the time. So it should not be something that they bring to school and then keep it in the lockers. Generally, I think for our school, I think we have had iPad for quite a while, and I think iPad is light enough that the children should be bringing it home every day. So they should not be locking it in the classroom and overnight. If they are not subscribing to iPad, they are subscribing to other tablets, it will be the same thing. I think they are light enough. We are not, in terms of our school preference, we are not, I mean, we don't object, but I think we are not encouraging them to be using laptop. So that's our device use currently. In terms of mobile phone, just want to alert the parents that our experience in terms of students' use of mobile phone is that, particularly last year during the circuit breaker, is that students find that the mobile phone is a little bit too small, and some of the things that they need to do on the projects or on the assignments, actually mobile phone is a little bit more restrictive. So they need at least a tablet to be able to do their work properly. So we are not advising children to be equipped with mobile phones for that kind of technology to be brought to school for their learning with technology, but we are more advocating tablets or iPads. Yeah, and we are advocating tablets because tablets are generally a lot cheaper as compared to iPad. So iPad has been our traditional choice, but we are now opening ourselves to other devices beyond iPad, because some of us might find iPads getting quite expensive. And really for some of the learning that our students can do, or even we as adults, we will find that we don't really need, not all of us feel that we need an iPad. So I think that option we want to keep it open to our children as well. So next question is, parents have started on vaccination programs at workplace. What about students? This is something that have not been rolled out to us yet. we have no news. I think the next group, we have the military group that are next in line. We have our athletes who are going overseas for training that have been announced that are next in line. We know that our frontline workers, in terms of airport and the different ports, they are probably going to be also on the priority list. Our seniors will be the next on priority list. So I'm not so sure whether our children will be next on the list. That is something that I can't say because there's no news on that yet. Yeah. Okay. Next. Okay. Parents want to know if it can be used for other levels too. What is it? The technology for other levels. Okay. Technologies. The plan right now is that P3 and P4 with the iPad program, we are now extending the program to beyond iPads, that they can use other devices such as tablets. So that's the configuration for P3 and P4. P5 and P6, since last year, we are also trying out, some teachers have also tried out asking the children to bring technology. So you would, for parents with children at the upper level, you probably have heard your children coming to you to say that, oh, teachers actually encourage us to bring technologies or tablets to school for our lessons. So they will come to you on and off. The use at that level 5 and 6 probably is not as intensive as 3 and 4 because 3 and 4 has a dedicated program for that. 5 and 6, because of that PSLE prep, in terms of the use of technology, and because we are also trying out, and some of the infrastructure actually wasn't as powerful as we want it to be. So in terms of the use, we are not pushing it too hard. But as the year go by, you will find that the teachers at the 5 and 6 levels are going to be using more and more of that. Now at P1 and P2, they are still relatively young. But we are also, the teachers at P1 and P2 are also exploring getting the students to start familiarizing with the technologies. How they are doing it at P1, P2 level is that most likely we are going to be doing push card. So when the teachers want to use technologies, we do have school sets of devices that will be pushed into the classroom and be given to the children. So at this stage for P1, P2, I don't think we are asking the children to bring their own devices. That when there's device use in the lessons, the teachers will arrange for these devices to be sent to the classroom for them. All right, so I hope that I've answered most of the questions. And thank you very much. And I will pass the time to the facilitators to bring us to the next segment. Thank you.
Thank you.